تن سه هدف من السه بيشنما يان دينيوا يان سريوا يان ناموساوا.
Despite Obama's claim that the US Air Force broke the siege of Yazidi refugees on Iraq's Sinjar mountain range, the vast majority of Yazidis fled into northeastern Syria, a region controlled by the PYD party, an offshoot of the PKK movement, considered a terrorist organization by the United States. We just arrived at the refugee camp in Derek in the Kurdish region of Syria. There's about 7,000 Yazidi refugees here. You can see they're all queuing up to get registered, to get food shipments. It's quite a desperate scene here. It's baking hot outside. There's thousands more trapped on the mountain still fleeing down the mountain to come here. Can you explain to me, why did you leave your home? Why did you leave your home and come here?
قنديل ما الهردو آليا شربوا الهردو آليا دان تشتى سلاح دوانا بون يعني عطاتي وانا ما تشتكي وانا ما هاو كارين شري خو بكن نكنا باجاري ما بخودا بس جماعة قنديل دوراما هم قوم رافيان تلفونا ما قلن قلت قوم رافيان قو كدنا نهمدا بشتيام هاتينا سشارعي شار ترام بيلدوان بيشاما قلتم تلقاوني ما فانيا.
When do you think you'll go back home?
خود باوریام یعنی اگر هم وگریان جی یعنی از بجم هر فیدا کمش نف اسلامتنی یعنی.
Despite being responsible for a vast refugee crisis of its own, the Syrian regime had sent aid workers to help.
هلا نحن هون اليوم مخيم نوروز للاجئين الاكراد اليزيديين اللي جايين من جبل سنجار نتيجة الأعمال الإرهابية اللي تتمارس بحقهم من إصابات داعش الإرهابي. نحن هنا بتكليف من السيد محافظ الحسن مشكلة بلجنة إغاثة فرعية هنا. لجنة الإغاثة هاي تقوم بتوزيع المساعدات التي تأتينا من المفوضية السامية لشؤون اللاجئين ومن برنامج الطفولة اليونيسف ومن برنامج الغذاء العالمي WFP.
You're working for the Syrian government.
بالاتفاق والتنسيق مع الحكومة السورية نقوم بتوزيعها عبر لجنة إغاثة فرعية مشكلة هنا بمنطقة المالكية. الدولة هو تقديم كافة ما تستطيع تقديمه ضمن الإمكانات المحدودة للدولة. طبعا نحن رغم جراحنا كدولة سورية.
America is now bombing Daesh in Iraq. Do you think that will affect the situation in Syria?
من سنتين وثلاث سنين عما ننادي بسوريا انه داعش تنظيم ارهابي. كل هذه الدول يجوز نحن نقول هالدول هاي تدعم داعش ضد النظام السوري، ضد الدولة السورية، ضد الشعب السوري، تقتل في الشعب السوري. الآن أمريكا توجه ضربات عسكرية في العراق. نتمنى أن يمتد هذا الضرب إلى سوريا، ليس فقط داعش وأيضا باقي الجماعات الإرهابية النصرة وأمثاله.
We just interviewed an official from the Syrian government, the government of Bashar al-Assad, who is responsible in his own way for a massive refugee crisis in Syria. But here the Assad government is distributing aid to Iraqi refugees.
سلاحات خود دانين پیش مرگا بری مباز جلکت خود عسکری آویدن و عید مدنی لبر خود قرنو باز دان چون تن سه هدف من سه بيشنما يان دينيوا يان سريوا يان ناموساوا بس محقق هذا حماية ما بقين سلاحها بدنا ما عم يكوشين كلاشين كوفا قبر شاسة كيس نقارن بربري ديوان بقم
وريفا قاش نقلا كوش نجيب ريفا نقارن تشتكي بقم ما لهم آخراكم ولا قا بابا خلاص نقربان إس دي بالشرق يكجي إبساغين دجارة قدي.
We went to meet Aldar Khalil, a senior official in northeast Syria's PYD administration, considered an offshoot of the PKK, which the US government considers a terrorist organization. And here in the camp we see officials from the Syrian government just outside, just a few meters away, distributing aid to Yazidi refugees from Iraq.
يعني يجو مديتن إذن خاصن درباسوني إنما مسؤولين النظام بون ما تشادر جوان خاصن هيئة أنا توين يجوي جوتن هجر أمر الشامي موافقين نجرن أم نكارن يعني برزايا سوري أم إمكانها بيشكي شو بكن أم نكارن خدي القام بيدر كذن.
But America considers the PKK, of which the YPG, the PYD is a subgroup, to be a terrorist organization. So has this improved your relationship with the United States?
لأمريكا بيجومان يعني أوجي خطرية داعش دزانه د سوري دي هري قاربو فيتروري حدا كي ويد بتسكناندن تفجر مية وهزي منه.
Would you welcome American airstrikes on ISIS in Syria?
ليجبو داعش وتنكرنا وي دفيجو رولك ويهبد كيم كرنا قوات داعش وليدانا ويده نشرت مرسلي لشكري دكارب تشتغريا لشكريش بو يبقى بك.
We come in Sinjar. When we go to here حركتوا من داعش طبعا من داعش واجوا على الجبل حتى بسف الجبل يعني ما خلوا لنا مكان لا اكل ولا مي ولا اسلحه يمشي مشي يعني من هناك لهنا شوفوا يعني بس قولوا حتى مشوا اجوا لهنا شوفوا كله من المشي.
We wanted to see how the Yazidi refugees were reaching Syria by land, so the YPG offered to take us on a trip to the Sinjar range through the narrow humanitarian corridor through Islamic State territory they control. We've been driving for a few hours now through Rojava, through the Kurdish-held region of Syria, and now we're approaching the border with Iraq, or what was the border with Iraq. It's Til Kocha. It was a border crossing. It was held by ISIS. The YPG captured it months ago with very heavy losses after heavy fighting. Now these guys, the Syrian Kurdish forces, the YPG, they've pushed through the border into Iraq. They've secured a safe corridor onto Mount Shingal to help the refugees flow back into Syria. But the secure corridor turned out to be very insecure indeed.
الناس نقف بقابلها ببينا جاي شنغالي آزاد كرين شيم وشرف أما.
An elderly Yazidi fighter from Sinjar would be our guide through the desert. About to cross the border between Syria and Iraq. We've just been told to drive very quickly. They do come forward and attack vehicles on this road with heavy machine guns.
يا فالا في سينوري نبا عراقي سوريا هو هم مركزها بالا مركزها الجيش مو بس هبال بان تعدد مقري يعني ميرا باز ندا ميرنا يعني ميري هاي كوشتني يا ودي دفاع خوكي انا
وين داعش من هون؟
داعش يعني جريب بسنجار داخل سنجار شنو هسه من اطلع اقول لكم داعش هنا واكون منطقه هذا ومنطقه هذا
الطزي ويش ويالي بتي
اوه هذه والله
دنيا كاتم
شنقالي رخاء شنقالي قال لك بجيب تشوف عربه
This is a hair-raising and sweaty ride across no man's land essentially.
بيجي مسعودي جا
ايه هذا شوف هذا المجمع
يسبي
يسمونه بالعربي مجمع قادسيه
هون داعش.
These are saying that village, which I can see unnervingly close out the window,
هذا مجمع
about a kilometre away, maybe less. He said that's held by ISIS.
مجمع هذاك مجمع بها داعش ناحية سنون هذاك.
So the village on the other side, also about a kilometre away, that's also ISIS. So we're basically in a very, very narrow corridor, a treacherous desert track, thinly held by the YPG. Surrounded by ISIS. Near the base of the Sinjar range, the convoy stopped for water at a Peshmerga outpost. While both the YPG and these Peshmerga from Iraqi Kurdistan's governing KDP party are Kurds fighting the Islamic State, relations between the two are strained, and we encountered a frosty welcome.
هذاك بداعش. مجمع هذاك بداعش. وذاك هم ورا هذا الطريق هم بداعش.
When we drove off, our escorts made a point of playing YPG music as loudly as possible. We're quite deep into what's notionally Iraqi territory now. And there's YPG troops everywhere, there's YPG flags flying from every building along the road. The borders between Iraq and Syria don't mean anything anymore. They don't mean anything to ISIS, and they don't mean anything to the Kurds. By the time we reached the base of the Sinjar range, the sun was setting and the convoy was running out of fuel. These are all trucks that were brought up the mountain by civilian volunteers from Syria to rescue the refugees up in the mountain, but they've all come back empty.
والله أنشون جهان تالي هوالا والله كسل البرنامج فقر المالي ساعتها وخش.
هو.
فقر الله. قال لك داقرتي هذا وقال لك فالا.
We're going to go back all the way through the desert back to Derek, where we left from. So we'll see how that works out. We crawled back through the desert, the slow-moving convoy's bright headlights a clearly visible target. It wasn't always clear where the safe route began and ended. Hours later, after many breakdowns, we finally reached the Kurdish region of Syria. While we've been here, rumours have been flying around that American troops have landed in Mount Sinjar to secure an escape route for the last few Yazidi refugees there, and that Britain and France have agreed to send weapons to the Kurds in Iraq. And the people here have been saying, when will the Kurds here, when will the Kurds in Syria get weapons from the West? We're fighting ISIS too. The only American weapons these guys have got are the ones they've captured from ISIS, like the Humvee we saw driving past just earlier. It remains to be seen what international intervention really means to the people here.